Welcome back. Wow, my Dubia and Madagascar hiss and roach colony has absolutely exploded. I'm gonna have to upgrade them soon. I am the Colonialist, and this is my brand new custom Vortex Out World, or my custom pods as I like to call them. It has the version 2 base design and also the reinforced version 2 lid design. This has been designed around keeping smaller species such as Phytole, Solenopsis germinata or Carebara Affinis. All extra precautions have been taken, like this extra sill, which also benefits in making it completely watertight. Let's just jump straight into getting this set up. So first of all, I need my lava rocks, which is setting off as my gravel. I've got a plastic pierce sheet on top of that. I put some sand over the top, and then I'm putting in my cocoa fiber and humus brick, which has been mixed together. Now the nest has been hydrated and bioactivated, it's time to cut this tubing, and I've just got to be very careful that I don't harm any of the workers. Luckily most of them are rushing back into the nest and the other ones are heading back into the end of the tube, which is blocked off. So I'm just going to throw that in the outworld, and then I need to get the cap on. Oh god, I dropped the cap. I need to get the cap on quickly because they're all going to come flooding out. Now this is a species that acts very fast, and believe me and you, if I didn't get that on in time, we would have just been flooded with Carebara. The next challenge now is to get the pod connected up to this one, and my eventual aim with these two pods is actually for the pod they're being connected up to now to replace the pod that they're currently in. So I'm hoping to be able to remove that one, do some repairs to it, and then it's going to be perfectly fine for use with my Polyacus dives, which is what it was originally intended for. It was designed to house Polyacus dives, not tiny species like this which have tiny little jaws and they can gnaw away, managing to disconnect both the base plate and the lid from their glue welds. But going forward, that's not going to be a problem with this design, and I got away with it for so long. I was actually genuinely lucky to get away with it for so long using the Polyacus pods with the Carebara Affinis. But saying that, the other original Polyacus pod that I used, their main nesting pod, is actually still intact. They've never chewed their way out of it, and it's actually stood the test of time and still remains to be their main nesting pod. So slowing them down from going through, normally I would have given them a head start. The reason I didn't is because I still need to hook up this tall outworld to the main nesting pod, which I believe the queens are in, just because of the amount of activity and movement, and also that's where the food is now being taken to. My next big challenge is to pull out this bit of PVC tubing that I've been using as a connector, because I'm going to use the 3D printed connection piece that AntBoyUK made for these pods, only because it's thicker, it fits a little bit tighter, and it's going to be harder for them to chew their way out. While I did that, around sort of 30 minor workers managed to escape, so I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes collecting them back up and putting them in the outworld, hopefully unharmed. It really does feel like ever since the day they arrived from the ant lady, that there's always something going on with this colony. There's always something that needs to be changed. There's always something being added to their setup. They're always growing at such an incredible rate. They're always just doing such crazy and insane things. They're just really interesting to film, and going forward I can't wait to add in some more things to their setup which are on the way, and hopefully that should give me a little bit more perspective on filming them, because I really want to film the difference in cast size, like from the minor workers all the way up to the super majors, and if the queens end up inside there, then that's going to be incredible to be able to film them as well. I do love what these custom Vortex Out Worlds from AntBoyUK have allowed me to achieve with this colony. It's been amazing watching them build and create their nests within the pod and being able to capture some of that. Hopefully once I have sort of better equipment, I'll be able to film the actual chambers that they've made in these pods. At the moment I just can't, because I just can't sort out the sort of light reflection that's given, and I think you just need a better camera that can focus in sort of almost on the macro level. Looking back in hindsight, when I was connecting up the large outworld, I really wish that I had have sorted out the vine before I connected it together, but I am the kind of guy that likes to jump in at the deep end. So of course I'm now putting it in after I've connected up the ants, so it's going to present a bigger challenge, and I don't know why, but that's just the way I happen to do it. I guess it's good if you want to see how you can maintain a pod while the ants are flooding all around, or just watch me struggle and brush them all off my fingers, as inevitably they're going to rush me as soon as I connect up this vine. I'm not entirely sure or convinced that the vine is going to be a suitable solution as a bridge for the Carebara Affinis. I'm a little bit worried that the majors and the super majors are going to struggle getting up and down it. I know the minor workers won't struggle, but the larger workers are certainly clumsy. They're not great climbers. So I'm a little bit worried about that. If you have any suggestions as to what I could use instead, perhaps a 3D printed structure, or should I stay natural and look at sort of like root vines, which are obviously larger and easier for them to climb. I don't want to be putting any substrate into this outworld because it is just a feeding outworld, and if I put substrate into it, they're just going to maintain control of the outworld by constantly getting rid of the barriers that I'm using. And that's why I'm using the taller outworld, so that I can barrier at least 50% of the top to try and stop them from getting up and out the lid, so then at least it's manageable and I'm able to sort of maintain and feed the colony. Opening up their major vineway has not gone to plan. I really should have done this before I hooked up the pods. However, a bit of perseverance and I'm eventually going to get there. I just need them to stop attacking my fingers, and you can't actually see from this angle, I don't think, but that vine is absolutely and utterly coated in Carebara Affinis workers. I'm pretty happy where the vine's now sitting on this back port. What I'm going to do with this port here, the reason I'm hooking up the vine, is I'm going to put a PVC tubing and attach this pod to the dirt nesting pod there, which obviously is the new pod that's going to replace the old pod, and eventually it's just going to go back to 2 dirt pods and this tall outworld, and then from there I'm going to give it more expansions. I'm probably going to bring back the 4-port mini pod and use that as a kind of crossway, and then I'm going to hook up some extra stuff. It's going to be pretty cool. I don't want to spoil it too much because it's a whole new episode to check out. I can't actually believe that when I started filming this episode, it was originally meant to just be an update on all my colonies. And due to the behavior or the misbehavior of the Carebara and the Camponotus nicobarensis, I've ended up splitting down one episode into 3 episodes. Pretty crazy. To really appreciate the struggles you see me going through right now, I think we need to take a look at this problem from another angle. This is what was happening while I was trying to get in there, and this is why I switched to using the scissors, because oh my god, there's Carebara everywhere. They were absolutely swarming the vine. I even tried to distract them with a sneaky millworm. It didn't last long. They carted it straight up the vine and into the nest like it was never there. With my slight distraction being a total failure, I thought, well, I might as well just hook up the new outworld to the dirt pod and finally reconnect the colony, because they've been separated since I first started this project and they've been split between the 2 nesting pods, and I'm pretty sure that the colony that's in the far left back pod at the moment is completely freaking out because they had a total disconnect. And as you can see from this footage here, it was not long before the colony was back together and feasting on an absolute feast that I gave them. So they have 3 dubia roaches and a 150ml tube of just pure sugary delight. I think it's always good practice to feed up your colony after they've been disturbed a bit. I think it just helps them on the recovery process, and also they might just forgive you for the extra disturbance, because then they go, wow, look at this absolute beast of a meal that we've got to work through. It didn't take them long to make those dubia roaches vanish. They've stuffed one in the corner, but it's actually quite cool, well, kind of cool to watch them struggle and drag these carcasses up the vine and into the nest. Without any substrate, it's so cool to just see how many workers are able to just compact themselves into this territory. The difference between the minor workers and the majors and then the super majors is just absolutely insane. But as predicted, I am seeing from the footage that the super majors are totally freaking out once they hit the vine. They're just like, whoa, this goes vertical. I do not like this. Whereas the minor workers are just breezing every surface they come into contact with. It doesn't matter if it's the wall or the vine. They're just running all over it as they do in their erratic, crazy pattern. That brings me to the end of this week's chaos with the Carebara. So they have their new pod in place, they've got the new outworld in place which replaces the 2 mini outworlds, and there's so much other content going on as well. If you haven't had enough, check us out at the Colonial AntCast, which is kind of being renamed to the AntCast. It's also now on YouTube and available on other platforms with myself, JB, Hood, My Living World Ants and Holifer. Also check me out where I wingman with Durka from Formicast podcast, a fantastic podcast. Both are available on YouTube and many other platforms. Links can be found in the description to everything and anything that I have mentioned in this episode. This is me for now, the Colonialist, signing out.